One of the things that really attracted to me, I'll never forget the first time I saw Nicky Six from Motley Crue with his arms sleeved out with tattoos and stuff like that. I was doing the old style, rockabilly, my dad, all the guys that were, homemade tattoos. So I was getting bits and pieces all over the place because tattoos weren't in style at that time. What really attracted me to that was the logos. I absolutely loved things sleeved out. I loved the Hells Angels in their vests with the rockers, the top rocker, bottom rocker, and the main patch. And then when rock and roll bands started wearing gang-affiliated, gang-looking style jackets and cuts and stuff like that, it turned me on so much. And it was one of the biggest attractions I had to be in the Guardian Angels was wearing the uniform and going into the subway. You stood out. And then, of course, the Warriors was a huge part of every young man of my generation's false identity as a tough guy. We all wanted to be in the Warriors. Scott, the gangs, to me, there's a movie called Flying Cuts. If you can find it on YouTube, Flying Cuts. It's all about gang apparel in the early 70s in New York City. Scott, the gang uniform or the sweater, the t-shirt, the patch.
We had specific pants that we wore. And
pants?
There was, the first initial stage for me was the greaser era. So the biker leather and the greaser look. There was actually a gang in my neighborhood, the Howard Street Greasers. I hung out with them, a lot younger than them, and they started fading away, and what they left. You remember what the gas station attendants used to, the Dickie pants?
I wear them every day.
To us, they were called baggies because we wore them loose. And I remember one of these mentors, Mike Lindenmeyer, that was always trying to save my life, would say, "Oh yeah, you're all ready to fight, got those loose pants on." Because with blue jeans, I couldn't kick. I couldn't fight the same. And so we all wore, you could identify, we called, we were gangbangers. You could identify another gangbanger from 150 meters away. You saw how they walked, what they dressed in. We all dressed the same. Different colors, different tones. We wore Converse sneakers and we coated them with our colors. So my colors were blue and black. Here's one of the sweaters. So this is an original Chicago Mills Simon City Royal sweater with the double patches. That's an original one.
Now this has got some stories to tell.
This has got a lot of stories. It's got a lot of miles, a lot of stuff. This was my sweater, and at one point it had a patch with my name on it here, and sometimes we would...
Did you guys do rockers on the back?
No, there were no back patches when I was young.
So if I had this on and I was walking down somewhere where I shouldn't be
Everybody knew what it was.
But I'd get my ass kicked.
You'd get it taken from you. So what we called it was burning a sweater.
Okay.
You burn it, you take it from them, and then you wear it with pride because you took it from someone.
Damn.
And so in a day, this is a Gaylord sweater, almighty Gaylords. And just so before people start laughing and teasing, look up the definition of gay before you start calling the guys homosexuals. So the Gaylords were a group of guys. They started in the 60s. They were tough, hardcore, serious guys. We were clubs to begin with, so it wasn't really a gang. And like I said, it was a neighborhood and there was hierarchy. We had everything organized. So if you want to call it this, it was the junior mafia. I know this for a fact that John Gotti was in a street gang.
Sure.
And then he was recruited to make the step. No. When John Gotti was young, it was a street gang. And then he moved up the ranks. So you got the sweater and then you got the t-shirts. A nice summer day and you're wearing this t-shirt. They weren't as desirable to burn and rip off because they didn't have that much monetary value. These sweaters were expensive.
Sure.
These patches were expensive, and it was a trophy if you got it with the guy's name on it. So it was territorial, it was neighborhood, and we were all poor. And I don't want to glorify this. It isn't to be glorified. I never talked about this. So you started out like, well, your life, I hid this. So people have said to me, your life is book-worthy, movie-worthy. Who the fuck are you? They don't know who you are if you haven't been arrested and you're on the news and you get a 30-year sentence. I was clever. I was smart, and I'm going to have to say someone up there was watching me, and I'm lucky. So I slipped through the cracks. And once I slipped through those cracks and made my stages, so I went from gang, I went into sports. I probably think lifting weights, bodybuilding, and boxing, martial arts probably helped change my life. It got me out of the real bottom of the barrel scumbag role, and it took me to a next level.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
martial arts and boxing. Boxing, anytime you watch a movie of a mob movie from the 70s, 40s up to the 70s, boxing gyms, I used to think, no, because, they want to invest and they're going to, want but no, that's where they used to get their fucking thugs from. If a kid is boxing and he comes into the gym and there's thugs in there, that's what they do, there's their office. And this kid can go, he can fucking school people in the ring. If he's got a shot, and the mafia knows that, but they also know this fucking kid could be an earner, or he can collect, or he can do whatever the fuck it is. If he's gonna really have a shot, do they block him from the life? Do they recognize it? How does that work?
It's very different now, Ian, than it used to be. Fortunately, I have all these facets of my life. I'm smiling because I was in the boxing gym when I was young, and the trainer brought in this old Italian guy. He's like, hey, Tony wants to talk to you. And he starts saying, hey, you could go places. You need a manager. You need to do things.
Wow.
Now, it turned me off. And I've always been turned off by middlemen, people making money off of my fucking labor. The fruits of my labor go in my pocket, not in his fucking pocket. So I was turned off by that. My mother is from Italy and grew up there's two neighborhoods that were famous in Chicago. One of them was Taylor Street, which is a really Italian neighborhood. The other one was The Patch. That was where all the mafia guys came out of there. I knew all about them, and I stayed away from them because they're taking people's money away. If they find out anybody's making money in any gray area, or even in a white area, in a straight, legitimate thing, if they can squeeze their way in and intimidate you, they're going to do it. And if they can give you a beating and take it away, they're going to do that. So I kept my distance from them.
Okay.
And so you're going back to like the Jake LaMotta days where the mafia had a huge influence. Now the boxing world is corrupt, but just like Vegas, it's spread out. It's not just the gangsters. So
ain't thugging anymore.
Yeah, it's not thugging anymore. But they're still as corrupt as the next guy.
So when you started getting into that, and you say the martial arts, was just for me to have a timeline. Benny Urquidez, was that kind of like your timeline too?
Yeah, I used to go and train at the Jet Center.
Okay, so that we're talking late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I got into martial arts since I was a kid. I had all this energy and was getting into trouble, so my mother took me. I walked into the kickboxing gym 1985.
Okay.
1985, I walked into the kickboxing gym, and I had taken karate and taekwondo and kung fu, and I wrestled, and I'd done boxing. And I remember the day I walked into the kickboxing gym to take care of some business. I didn't, and it just happened to be there. Chicago Fitness Center, Eddie Yoshimura, shout out to Eddie, one of my most interesting and colorful fighting instructors.
Okay.
Eddie was an old school badass. He retired. He became a Chicago cop, retired as a sergeant. And Eddie was one fucking tough character. And it was awesome to train with him. But anyway, I walked into the kickboxing, and I'm watching the kickboxing, and I just said, this is for me. The guys are rock'em sock'em. You got punches and kicks and then spinning back fists and flying. And this is me. I'm all in. But by that time, Ian, I was done with gangbanging. So I wasn't a gangbanger anymore.
Is that when you decided to be?
I was organized crime.
Okay. Briefly, the difference between organized crime and gang life is just the level of.
It's your age and your maturity and the money.
And you've kind of you gotta get invited into that. The junior mob system is a. Are you being watched, recruited, or
it depends who you are. Right. I kicked the door wide open.
Okay.
I just kicked it open. People knew me. I was on the streets, Ian, and I had a reputation. There are a lot of guys with reputation, a lot of badass guys, and I was going to go back to something. There's a big difference. There's a lot of guys in the street that are tough and they're thugs. The difference with a guy who really trains and fights is the conditioning. Most guys in the street can't last more than 30 seconds. So if you get in a fight, everybody is dangerous. Any man out there is dangerous, but for how long? It's a funny thing because once you know how to fight, it's just bang, 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 and you wait, and as soon as I see that, I say, now the fight begins. Because I'm not going to get into it with some guy that's going to close his eyes and windmill punch for 30 seconds. That guy can hurt anybody.
Sure.
I'm going to bang, 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 and once now it's time to fight. And I used to tell people, a few people that started fights with me, I had this guy, Charles Armstrong. His father was the owner, he's a black guy, owner of a big newspaper. I think it was the Chicago Defender. And he thought he was a hard ass. He was kind of big. He was probably 6'2", 220 pounds at that period of time. I'm going to say 1985. And he started a fight with me. And he had 15 guys with him. So like the old saying and the old cliche, I got my back against the car because I don't want to get hit from behind, but I'm still vulnerable. And there's these two kind of big dudes on my side. And he slapped me in the face. And I said to him, he goes, you know, he started his bullshit with me. And I said, hey, you want to fight? He says, yeah, I want to fight. I go, let's me and you walk a block away from here and go down that alley. And may the best man come walking out. No. We had a fight. Long story short, I got a hold of him 2 weeks later. And I gave him a beating. And Charles, if you're watching this, what a pussy. You called the police on me. But you did come back to me a month later at the Riviera nightclub and you shook my hand and you said it was a mistake, you were wrong, and you apologized. So you manned up and you came back. And so
you're still a pussy.
I don't know if he's still around. He was a big dude. He was well known in Chicago. He had some money and some heat. And so and then it got to the next level. But I tried to break away. I want people to understand we're not gratifying. There's no crime is a dead end, Ian. So it's either dead or prison.
Okay, so now when you elevated your status and you started making money, when did you
17 years old.
Take me to when you got money and when you got fucked up and got
okay. I'm going to start from another point.
Okay.
My first book that I wrote is this book right here.
Right.
Smoke, Confessions of a Cuban Cigar Smuggler. And I wrote it with notes. I started, here's one of my old fake invoices I made so I could move around with those prohibited cigars. So I wrote this. I started writing it by hand. When I started writing this, it was I'm going to say 1999, 2000. I can just keep writing. So I have these ideas and I write them down. So I went to Colombia 6 months ago to meet Colombian drug lord, to have a meeting and a conversation with Carlos Later. There's a woman in Colombia. She's Carlos' lawyer. She's also an author. She's published a couple books, and she's a well-known attorney in Colombia. And she's a candidate right now for the president of Colombia. Shout out to Sondra. And she sent this journalist to me from Colombia, Juan Carlos Quintero. She said, you got to interview Scott. This is one interesting guy with a great story. They both called me on the phone. They were out partying, and they called me, and I said, yeah, I'll stay an extra day, and I'll meet with him, and I'd love to. And I met with him, and he looked at me. He looked me in the eyes, and he said, Scott, you're writing 4 books? Carlos Later wrote 1. This is Pablo Escobar's partner. What makes you think that you have 4 books? And I started telling him my story. That's when he turned the camera on and we started talking. So the childhood, the gangbanging, the sports, the karate, the kickboxing, the boxing, the fighting. Fast forward into the organized crime, the robbing drug dealers, the becoming a drug dealer myself, all of the intricacies. When you are on the street, it all kind of comes together. It's like being in show business or music. It comes together. You start meeting the other people. It's like you're a pretty good musician and you know somebody and you're in a cafe in West Hollywood and Slash is over there sitting at the counter. He sees you. He goes, hey, Vampiro, come over here. And you guys start sitting down. He's like, man, we should do something together. That's how crime happens too. Okay. You start running into guys and people start reaching out and they go, okay, who knows how to crack a safe? Who knows about alarms? Who knows about this? Who knows about weapons? Who knows about counterfeit money? Who's got this connection? There is this underground network of people that come together, so it all gets involved.
So is that when you started to get in? Because your first book, which we really want to focus on, is
about smuggling cigars.
It's about smuggling cigars. That was your big claim
because
to
I
fame.
was never going to talk about any of this stuff ever before. There were 2 of the guys that I grew up with were down intense and 100% street, and we had an agreement. as long as we're alive, you know, the three of us, we're never going to talk about this stuff because there's a lot of stuff that shouldn't be spoken about ever. And I agreed. They're both dead, so anything can be talked. What happened is, Ian, I had my 60th birthday a year ago, and I just started thinking. I had this feeling. I can't describe it. I would wake up in the middle of the night. I'd wake up in the morning with anxiety, telling me, "You got to get your story out there. Push your story out there because it is unique." I have a bio that I wrote, and I'm not bragging and I'm not boasting, but in my bio it says, "John Gotti's got nothing on me." There's a difference. John Gotti ran one of the New York crime families, they had deep tentacles of corruption inside of the unions and all that kind of stuff, and he was the real deal, hard ass. I'm not comparing myself to him, but it's distinct. I have so many more facets. I could swim in almost any river, and he was limited to where he could go.
Sure.
So that's what the difference is. My story is deep, in-depth, and it's worth telling. So I wrote the book Smoke. That was the only one that was ever going to be written about smuggling Cuban cigars, because it isn't just about cigars.
Well, tell me about it then.
Okay. So let's go through a few things.
Yeah, like how the fuck did you come up with the idea, and what the fuck was that like? You must have shit your pants the first time. I want to know about. I don't give a fuck about anything else. I want to know that.
Okay. Thank you, because that's what I want people to ask me.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about anything else.
Okay, so here I am.
This isn't to teach you little fucks how to steal things and smuggle across the border. So,
well, it's a story of redemption and rebuilding. So here I am. I'm sitting in a prison cell, and I'm looking up.
How the fuck did you get in prison? What's your charge? So you're doing time.
Which one? Which charge?
Well, you're sitting. Okay, you did.
It started at 10 years old.
You're on vacation, thinking about Cuba. Okay, then what?
I'm sitting there looking up at the ceiling, and I'm in Middle Georgia. It's all black, and I'm listening to their music, rhythm and blues. And I got a little cheap version of an iPod that they used to sell back then with a couple little batteries, and I'm listening. And their music, the soul music, the rhythm and blues music is good. And you can feel it in your fucking soul. I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm saying, I don't want this life, because I've been around it forever.
Right.
I was on the run. I was a fugitive for 5 years. Anybody who thinks they want that fucking life, think again. Hardest period of my life ever. I got to correct myself. My divorce was harder.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. That's my last book. I've already had the manuscript. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't want to get in trouble, but it's all I know. And you're meeting people and you're talking to people, and the Fed sent in an undercover agent there to try and, I was in there for counterfeit, I was in there for guns, I was in there for drugs. The stack of stuff against me was piled up. I had this amazing attorney walked in and said, I'm going to help you out. You're just a young guy that's getting in trouble, a lot of adrenaline, and I know you're not going to do it again. I'm going to help you get out of this. Sit tight. I met these Cuban guys. I met these two Cuban guys in there. We start talking. They were running drugs from Miami to Chicago, and I was the only guy in this entire place that spoke English and Spanish. So I'm translating for everybody. I'm getting close to them. There's a good relationship. And I told them about, Cuba, that I had this invitation to Cuba, but I couldn't go because I didn't want to get a false passport and get caught over the passport. You're the fucking clown, the village idiot. You're in there, like, yeah, man, I want to go on vacation somewhere, so I got a passport and got caught getting it. I didn't do it. Cuba was on my radar. I wanted to go. I heard the story, the girls, the sun, the fun. Didn't know a fucking thing. The only thing I knew about cigars was my old Uncle Joe, who had a cigar in his mouth all the time, talk like this, and the gangsters that smoked them. Young people, cool, young, hip people didn't smoke cigars at that time. I get out, I'm building a life. I'm teaching kickboxing classes, I'm teaching kickboxers, I'm training people, and I'm in the boxing game. So I'm training a lot of fighters, and you know a lot of them.
Yeah.
Mario Acebacha Martinez, he was my star pupil, and I got a stable of fighters. I'm building it, and I'm thinking how ugly this business is. I'm inside of boxing, and I'm realizing this is worse than the streets. These guys are rougher, tougher, more corrupt, and more crooked and disloyal than it was in the streets.
Wow.
And I'm not liking it. I go on vacation with 4 other guys to Cuba. And on that vacation, I bring a package. I'm delivering a package for this Cuban family. The guys come to pick it up, and I buy 2 boxes of cigars from them out of pity, Ian. I bought it out of pity. I just said, man, I'm looking at these guys, what they're wearing. They're wearing clothes from the 50s or 60s, and they're everybody's thin on the island. The girls are giving away the apple for a Snickers bar. It's just really poor and sad.
Yeah.
These guys they offered me the cigars. This is probably 92, 93, something like that. I bought the cigars. I left them in the room. My good buddy Antonio said, what are you doing? I said, I don't want them. What am I going to do with cigars? Ian, when I'm buying them, $50 for the 2 boxes, I'm thinking, I should just give it to them and they can keep the cigars. I don't want to offend them. I buy the cigars, throw them on the table. Tonio tells me to take them. I pick up those boxes of cigars, throw them in my bag, get back to my office, open a cabinet door, throw those 2 boxes in the cabinet, never think about them again. I'm going back and forth to Chicago for my parole and having to report every month and to get dropped and all that stuff. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm bringing Mexican boxing gear because it was an item in the U.S.
Yeah.
Oh man, those Mexican boxing gloves, they were made longer, wrist support, less weight in the front, puncher's gloves. And I'm bringing them back and forth and going to the boxing gym, selling them to trainers and boxers. And what a fucking, that's like pushing a square rock up a hill. I wasn't digging it, but I was doing it for the money. And I went over, you remember my friend Brett, and Brett was on a roll. Brett was on a fucking roll. And I had given him one of those boxes of cigars as a gift because he said, hey, you got any cigars? I said, yeah, here's a box. I'm at his house, and he comes out of his room, and he's wearing a Versace robe. It's open in the middle. He's got this designer rope chain like Dolce & Gabbana. He loved brands. And I picked up a package it was a newspaper. I was going to read the newspaper, and I picked it up off of his table, and I judged it, and I'm like, the weight of this is a little funny. And he comes out, he goes, hey, you probably don't want to touch that. And I go, it weighs about 2.2 pounds. And, it's a kilo of Coke. And I pull my sleeve down, I rub it off, and I'm fucking suffering. I'm nervous thinking, I don't want to be here. The cops kick in that door. There's no way I'm getting out of it. Hey, I'm just a visitor. I just got here today. They're going to know me. They're going to dislike me, and I'm going to get rammed. Anyway, he said, hey, you got any more of those cigars? And I said, you smoked them already? I didn't know the habits of smoking a cigar.
Right.
I thought, you smoke one a year, whatever. And he's like, no, I sold them. I said, you sold them? He goes, yeah, $25 a piece.
Oh, fuck.
What a beautiful, that was my reaction, right? Imagine that you're sitting here right now, you're suffering, trying to make some money, and somebody tells you that, bang, 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 my calculator goes off, ching, ching, $625. I paid $25 for that box, maybe 20. And he's like, you got any more? I'm like, yeah, I got one more box. And I said, hey, do you think if I brought those here, if I could get any, I could sell them? He goes, oh, for sure. I said, for sure? Where? I didn't know, Ian, because I'm living in Mexico.
Right.
I don't know the trends that are starting in the U.S. This is the 1990s. No internet, no social media. Everyone isn't able to see what everyone else in the world is doing. He opens my eyes. He tells me about this guy that rides around on a scooter with a backpack, and he has a minimum of like 3 or 4 cigars, $25 a piece, and he's making a killing. And I said to him, hey, where would I sell them if I brought them here? And he said, how about Howard Fromm? Howard Fromm was the Rolex dealer of Chicago. I call him the Rolex king. He knew everybody. I mean, everybody. I actually have a saying that if you don't know Howard, you're not from Chicago, because he was the it. He just passed away about a month ago, my dear friend Howard. My book is dedicated to him. Okay. So with that motivation and inspiration, because I was on fumes. I was trying to build a life, and I was refusing all the invitations to crime. Here in Mexico, you and I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was getting invites that were very tempting.
How the fuck so once you turn down those invites, because I know what it's like, I get them all the time, and I'm like, I'm starving, I gotta do fucking something. So to avoid that temptation, you saw that you can sell these bitches. What was it first? The first fucking adventure was it?
I couldn't sit in my seat.
Were you fucking nervous?
When he told me that, I couldn't fucking sit in my seat. I couldn't wait to get back to Mexico, and I started networking. And it sounds easy. I started calling people. Hey, it's Cuban cigars. Cuban. Who knows? Anybody know? You know how it is. If you're looking, this is for every one of you people out there. Seek and you shall find. But it's not going to be easy. You got to fucking work hard, and you got to look and bound on doors. So I got here. I started looking. About a week later, I get a phone call from someone that said, hey, Scott, I heard about this Cuban guy that lives in Guadalajara, and he sells Cuban cigars. Well, tracked him down, got him, had a meeting. He came into my office, and I remember that day. It was so cool because he wasn't wealthy. He was poor, but he was dressed well. He had on dress slacks, and I noticed that he always wore colored T-shirts. So, you know, Fruit of the Loom, package of 6, red, green, blue, and he always wore those. A couple gold wrist bracelets, some jewelry, nice watch, nice ring, and he looked like a Cuban. He was a little short, chubby guy, and his hair was slicked back, and he had that Cuban accent. It was fucking awesome. It was a scene out of a movie.
Cool.
And you know how Hispanic people are? They're good at being the boss. So he's got his gopher with him, and he like gives him a look. Like first he came in to check out the scene. Everything is good. No cops. No, I'm not getting robbed. He tells the guy, shh. The guy runs out, and he comes back with 2 suitcases. Lays him out on the desk in my office, and I took a couple pictures. I have some pictures here. He lays him out there, and I start looking, and I don't know anything. And this is kind of the sad moment. I only had, Ian, like $5,000.
Okay.
It's all the cash I had to my name. And so I bought 40 boxes of cigars for $110 a piece, $4,400. I had $600 left for expenses. And I bought them from him not knowing. I didn't really choose. We just put a package together, boom, 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 boom. That's it, goodbye. That was a Thursday. That next Saturday, a day and a half later, I was in Antonio's car with him, and we brought this guy, Oscar, with us. And Oscar wanted, he needed money so bad, he was so hungry. He was a drug dealer that had gone bankrupt, and he wanted to kickstart his life, and he was my compadre, Asabacha Martinez. He was his brother-in-law, his compadre too. He was trustworthy. He was a colorful guy, liked him. We got in the car with 1 suitcase of 44 boxes of cigars in, and we drove to the Laredo border. I don't have to tell you, you've driven all over Mexico. Yeah. You got hijacked one time, and your car got all machine gun riddled. So you know what it's like in the roads of Mexico. We made it to Laredo. In my book, I have all of these stories. And to me, it just gets me. I get animated talking about it. We get it to the border, cross them across the border. I send Oscar in a Greyhound bus to Chicago. There's a lot of detail in between, but I get to Howard From, the Rolex King, and he receives me with open arms and calls all of his friends, and I sell those boxes. I turn that $4,400 into $12,600 in just a couple days. Bang. I am on a plane. I'm back, and the guy has 120 boxes left. Ooh. So I negotiate $100 a box, and I buy 120 boxes of cigars. 120, Ian. Okay. I just made myself about $10,000. This was like the cocaine days of the 1980s.
Sure,
big. This was big money to me. Anyone out there can laugh and go, it's peanuts. It wasn't peanuts for me at that moment. And so then I came back. I bought 120 boxes. Ian, you know me. I can't sit still. I'm not the kind of guy to wait. I'm fucking kicking doors in. And I was in the car again and on my way, and I went to Nogales, Arizona.
Okay.
With Oscar again.
Okay.
And I crossed it. It was a whole process. I don't want to bore people right now with all the details. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I got them across the border in Nogales with the guys who smuggle the drugs. The whole cartel connection, all that stuff that we had. Get them across the borders to the U.S. side. I get them to Tucson, grab a plane, go to Chicago, and I sell those boxes in about 2 weeks for for $36,000.
Wow.
At $36,000 and come right back and call that Cuban guy and he says, Scott, I'm out. I don't have any more. What the fuck are you doing with all these boxes? He said, I've never had anybody buy this kind of, it's never happened. And again, I'm not patient. And I'm building, trying to expand my gym. My whole goal is my boxing gym, my weightlifting, and this is going to be my life. I'm going to straight and narrow, and I'm grinding hard. And I just happen to have this buddy, Eduardo, the engineer, he's building for me. And I mentioned my dilemma about the cigars, and he looks at me and he says, hey, I used to have a girlfriend in Cuba, and I was going to marry her. I know my way around Cuba really well. And I was like, you're kidding? He's like, no, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. It wasn't more than 3 days, and we were landing in Havana.
Wow.
Me and him landing in Havana, pockets full of money, and zero knowledge and information, zero. And you've been to Havana, you know what Cuba's like. Everybody is selling cigars because that's like their national product.
Do they fuck with you when you try to leave with that many?
Of course.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the first time. Me and Eduardo buy the cigars. I don't know anything, Ian. I don't know anything. There's two versions of Cuban cigars in Cuba. There's factory made and sold, and then there's street cigars. Street cigars can go anywhere from being as good as the factory cigars to being absolutely useless with a Cuban label on them. I don't know anything. So we tried. Eduardo had told me he knew the factories. I wanted factories. I wanted the best. We tried going to factories. They were standoffish. They were snobs. They didn't even pay attention to you. These are Cuban employees. They get paid by the government $5 for a fucking month. Do you think they care about kissing ass? No, the cases are half empty. There's nothing there. None of the desirable brands. Made my contacts, bought them on the street, and my contact, who I thought was reliable, sold me fake Cuban invoices. Hey, here you go. This will get you out of the airport. Anyway, Eduardo and I are in the airport. I am fucking pumped up and gung-ho. I'm in the motherland, getting the milk from the mother's breast. I got 2 suitcases with approximately 35 boxes of cigars. And Cuba, you go to the counter, you check in, then you go through that dark immigration crosswalk, but it's dark, you can't see anything. You go on the other side, and now you're in the waiting area, but they have that filter with the x-ray to put your carry-on bags. And I look to the left, and my 2 bags are out. They didn't get checked and didn't know the process. And then we're pulled into a room. And I told Eduardo, go away. I put $60 inside of my passport before I even got there. I had prepared for this. I went in the room with this man and this woman, and I'm talking to them, and I pretended that I didn't speak Spanish to maybe get some type of...
Just get the fuck out of there
get the fuck out of there. That's basically it. And then the guy's asking me about the cigars, and he tells me, did you buy them at the store? And I said, yeah. I pull out, I give him the invoices. It was the beginning of the cigar craze, so nobody knew all the tricks yet, and it wasn't common knowledge. And the airline is coming over and go, plane's leaving. You're going to let these guys go? They're going to stay. What are they doing? He's like, I don't know. And I give him he said, give me your passport. And he opens it, and there's 63 $20 bills in there. He goes, what's this? I said, that's for you if you want it. And he looks around, and he's very nervous because it's prison over there. It might be a fucking firing squad for a Cuban official to do this. Anyway, he gives it back to me. He goes, get the fuck out of here. He goes, they can go. We get on the plane. I'm like, fuck, I made it. But that wasn't it, Ian. One of the most difficult parts about Cuban cigar smuggling is getting them out of Cuba. Right. It is not easy. It's not like you just land in a plane, Fidel's waiting for you, you shake his hand, he's like, Scott.
I want to point that out. Yeah. When I went with my wife at the time, it said foreigners were allowed 2 boxes max.
2 boxes or $1,000 in invoice. You can take out 2 boxes of any cigars.
So just be aware. You ain't just fucking landing.
No, not only beware. We're going to send to you. I'll fill your team out right now with. Yesterday I was doing some research for my book because I'm doing the final edits, and I have a couple mentions of busts. And there's a new bust. Recently, they busted people in Cuba trying to leave there with 130 boxes. I used to leave with 600 boxes at a time. You don't want to be in a Cuban jail. I had many people going to Cuban jail. I got busted in Cuba. Tonio, Eduardo, this other guy, Luis, they all went to Cuban jail for me. They were gracious enough to sit there for me. I went back the next day. So I got home that night. I wanted to find that customs guy. He was my ticket. He was my ride to be able to get the cigars out of Cuba. I wasn't missing this opportunity. And it's funny how fate is kind of set in motion for us.
Yeah.
Because I left the next day to go back to Cuba, and when I'm in the airport in Mexico City waiting for the connecting flight, there's this Cuban guy, Elier, who we had become buddies. We weren't great friends yet, but we were good acquaintances. I bought cigars from him. This guy was a hustler, scammer. He was in everything. And hey, Scott! And I'm like, fuck. I'm traveling incognito. I want to go, I got a mission.
Yeah.
And this guy he's going to fuck it up.
Okay.
And he sits down and we're talking. What are you doing? No, I'm just going over there. And you? And he goes, oh, Scott, he's got like 7 or 8 hockey bags full of gear that he's buying here. Fake Nikes, fake Levi's. He brings gold-plated chains. So, you know, people there can't afford gold. So he's like, Scott, can you do me a favor? When we get to Havana, can you carry a few of my bags? I'm like, fuck. But I said yes. I'm a guy, and I'm one of the guys. And okay, I'll take one for the team. And I said, listen, Elier, you stand on that opposite side of the band, and I'm going to stand on the other one. And I'm going to be looking at you. And when the bags are coming out, you just point to it, and I'll pull it off. We're standing there, Ian. I mean, I've got all the criminality down to a fucking science, and this fucking amateur. We're standing there. Nobody knows I know anything to do. Escort! Escort! The blue one! I'm like, oh, fucking idiot. I don't pay attention to him. I play it off and I grab it, and this happens with all 3 or 4 bags. By the time I'm done with him, it's loaded up. I'm pushing this cart, and it's loaded up to here, and there's the sign that has like a red circle if you have something to declare, or a green circle, nothing to declare. I go right over the green, and I'm just walking like I had before. And the woman says, hey, you need to go to the red line. I go, no, you need to go to the red line. They're not friendly. They're not patient. There's no tact or politeness. Go. Fuck, I go over. And they have me go into a room. And I go into the room, and I'm looking down, not really in the best mood. And a guy came in, and he's standing in front of me, and when I look up and he looks up, it's him. It's the fucking guy I was coming to search for. And my odds of finding him were really low because they switched them to different parts of the airport. These guys are always transferred. So it would have taken me a long time to find him. And it's him. And I look at him, I go, hey, it's me from yesterday or the day before. And he looks at me, he said, you didn't speak Spanish. I said, oh, I was scared. And he said, what are you doing back so fast? I said, I came to find you. He said, me? Why? He fucking looks around everywhere, and he takes out a piece of paper that...
Like a fucking scrap.
Exactly.
Size of a rice.
Yeah. You've seen that before. Yeah. It's like the piece of paper is tiny, and he writes down his name and number, and then he tells me, let's pretend this was a Monday, and he tells me, my day off is Sunday. I'm like, fuck, I got to sit here... But you can't push these people. They're not motivated, inspired.
Oh, and he's fucking scared to death, too.
And he's scared to death.
Of course.
And so meet him on Sunday. So this was destiny, Ian. This entire cigar thing was God's hand on my shoulder. Even though it was illegal, it's kind of a gray line. You don't go to the complete... Who gives a fuck about cigars? Except for, of course, the ATF, the Justice Department, the IRS, etc. They care... technically, but nobody's out there hunting it. You got guys breaking a lot of laws that are a lot more important.
Yeah, definitely.
So
that's the beginning of your fucking adventure.
That's the beginning.
That's day 1. That's day 3. Day 4.
We can say that that's the beginning because remember I'd already taken several trips.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there.
Well, before it goes on, let's just put a few things in the check here. So you get this going. You got these first 2 trips. You get the $600 a month. You're investing in your gym. Everything's going up. What does $600 bring you in profit?
Think about $350 a box across the board. You know, it's a lot of money. 100 boxes is 35 grand.
So how many times did you
I made
more
60.
than 20 under 10?
I made 60 trips to Cuba.
Fucking hell.
And probably 100 trips to the U.S. My trips to the U.S. Whatever it was, 60 and 60. And I would go to Cuba, but I had to store them up, Ian, because I could never get enough. My clientele, they were exclusive. They wanted the good shit. So I did the street cigars for the first period of time, and then I had a terrible bust. I had a terrible bust in Nogales, Arizona. It kind of spoiled the mood. They took away 5,000 cigars from me at the border of Nogales. I have the newspaper article right there, and I'll show it to you in a minute. They took those. I went home and worked for free. Went back. I scratched my head a lot of times and said, "Am I going to keep doing this?" Because Ian, I would take 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. 2 steps forward, 1 step. You know, the guys in the border, there's a lot of bandits, so they would steal out of my inventory, try and rob me.
5,000 fucking cigars, Scott.
Yeah.
Who took that? The Americans?
Yeah, the Americans. I'm actually trying to find the guy who did it. The customs agent in charge, his name is Terry Kirkpatrick. He's now retired. And ironically, he owns a cigar store in Arizona.
You want to have a chat with him?
I want to sit down and talk to him. I've heard his nickname is the Grumpy Gringo.
What if I on one of my trips I just walked in there and I bought some cigars at a shop and he was there?
I heard now he might have had a heart attack or a stroke, and he's living in Nebraska.
Okay.
In Omaha, I think. And I have the phone number to his wife and her store, and maybe today I'll be inspired to call them. So I got all those taken away, and I'm just fucking taking one shot after another, and there's a lot in between. And but I went back to Cuba. I went back to Cuba, and I just kept going and filling my humidor. I probably got in total, while I did this, I probably got 3,000 boxes of cigars confiscated. Guys were crossing them and they got caught, or they got caught in Cuba, or they got caught somewhere, and had a lot of problems. But I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, because it was the least of the evils, Ian. Because all my friends were still rolling.
Yeah.
All my guys were still in business. They were rocking and rolling, and I could have jumped right back on the ground running, but I refused. I'm not going to do it. There were a few people along the way who trusted me, a few people that had faith in me as an adult, not as a child. And I said, I'm not going to disappoint people anymore, because I disappointed almost everybody in my life before that, including the boxing trainers and the kickboxing trainers. They all had high expectations for me, and I always let people down because I was moving too fast to slow down.
So at what point in time, you're doing this crazy fucking adventure, you're doing things, you did 100 million trips, you're making all this money, it's getting dangerous, it's ups and downs. When did you start to back off on that, like when did it ran its course?
I'll tell you, it started happening subtly because I had a federal judge that I sold cigars to. A federal judge. I sold cigars to Michael Jordan, to Richard Dent from the Chicago Bears, and Sean Gale from the Chicago Bears. The famous Chicago photographer, Mark Hauser, who was very famous. One of my customers was a legitimate billionaire. A billionaire in the 90s is a big deal.
Sure.
Restaurateurs, the owner of the yellow taxi cab in Chicago. I had big rollers that were my customers. And the federal judge said to me, he goes, "You got to be careful. There's been chatter going on about cigars, and there's actually investigations." And then I started hearing about busts. People were actually getting busted, but they weren't me. These people didn't have a criminal past. They didn't know how to actually do it. I had already had all this experience and knowledge. I knew how to protect myself and be careful. So that's why I survived. So we're getting closer. It all revolved around my family, my children, and my goal to build a business and a life. I wanted the life that my customers had, and I never had it before that. I never had a stable life. I never had a life that was built on a foundation. Sure, I made a lot of money. That money came in this hand and it went out this hand, and it flies. When you're in the street life and you're making street money, you can't buy a big house. You can buy some big cars. I never had a car in my name in my life until I was older. Never. Wow. Every car I owned was in somebody else's name, and that's how I was used to living. So I started, as my construction started getting further, and you know me, I do most of the construction myself. So I was a general contractor, and I would subcontract. I was burning the wick at both ends. The construction was just about at the end, and I had $40,000 left to buy gym equipment, and I had a friend who later became my partner in California who was selling equipment. I went to him, and when I bought that whole gym of equipment that I was going to put in my newly built building, I said, that's it. I'm not going to push the envelope like I used to. I'm going to stop right now, and I never looked back, Ian. I brought that equipment. I came, and this is a funny story. When I was buying the equipment, I had brought a box of cigars. I used to use them. I'd give them away to people, share them with people. There's a real bonding with men when they smoke a cigar together. So I brought these cigars, and this businessman in California who he had a bunch of his friends at his house that night playing cards and smoking cigars, and I sat there and I entertained this group of millionaire businessmen with my tales. They were enthralled in hearing about the cigar smuggling and the girls and the danger and the drugs and all this stuff. At that moment, that's when I thought, I got to write this book. These guys, the one guy, because most people live a quiet life of desperation. They're not having any excitement and any enjoyment. So I knew right then that I would have to tell this story one day.
So when you got to that point, you know, the stories that are going to come, obviously there's going to be 3 or 4 more podcasts. This is way too much.
Because I have the other books coming that are way more intense.
Yeah, and we're going to fill in the gaps too.
Awesome.
But like, just to give, like, this is the foundation, this is the base, this is the blueprint. So you went through all that, and when you're sitting with these millionaires and you started to realize, because I've been watching you fight with this since I met you. I want to tell, I don't want to tell, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And it's finally got you, and it's fucking, now it's a new obsession, you won't put it down. And I love that. So when you started talking to them, and is that when you decided, so.
I could see the look on their face.
All right, now, what kind of kick in the balls was it when you realized this ain't fucking easy writing a book?
That's deep, Ian, because I started with this. And as you can see, I'm not a scholar. I don't pretend to be. I'm not out there telling people I'm a product of higher education. I'm a snob. I'm more privileged than other people. None of that is even close to true. And I don't want to be that guy. I am the real deal. I came from nothing, and I fucking fought my entire way, kicking, screaming, and fighting to make a life. And I started writing. And as you can see, Ian, my 4-year-old son probably writes better than me. So I'm writing and I'm telling the story because I got to get it out and these memories. And then somebody teased me. Somebody made some fun of me. He's like, hey, writing your book. Yeah, man, who gives a fuck about your book? That's mediocre people that are never going to do anything in their life. But I was on a mission at that point. I was building gyms. I became the master franchise for Gold's Gym in Mexico, and I became a legitimate businessman. I became what I coveted. All these men that I sold cigars to that were legitimate businessmen, I had pockets full of money since I was fucking 17 years old, maybe, but that's fucking petty cash. I was a peon, fucking street guy with some street cred, but you're not building on a foundation. And I wanted to build a foundation. So here I am building this gym and doing everything, and I got lost. Because anybody out there that's done business or done anything close, it's fucking hard. It's all day, every day thinking, working. So one of the people who started telling me, our friend, John Romano, here I'm going to change course and then go back. John Romano, senior editor of Muscular Development magazine, right there it says, Cuba, the next oasis. John Romano went to Cuba with me just like 2 years after I quit smuggling cigars and I was building the gyms, and John went with me, And the article is in here. It's on my webpage, Scott Anthony OG. And he wrote about it. And then John, same as you, I've hidden all this stuff, Ian. Most people don't have a fucking clue what I live. They look at me and they go, that's Scott the businessman. But it wasn't always like that. And I'm embarrassed about some of that stuff. I'm embarrassed of what I did and how I did it and how I lived, so I hid it. I fucking hid it in shame, and I hid my head in shame. I didn't want anybody to know, and John Romano was riding me all the time. And then Sons of Anarchy came out, and John Romano called me. He said, Scott, I saw this new program. You got to see it. Sons of Anarchy, and it's a series. He said, Scott, you got to do a series. Your life is a series. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Real street guys, and somebody like Michael Francesi, he's just now able to talk about this. I'm just now able to talk about it, Ian. Yeah. I didn't want to talk about it. Now, if I was with another street guy,
yeah, it's different.
And we're in private, we'd talk about it, the glory days and that kind of stuff. But I started, so what happened is John Romano said, he's a writer. You know, John Romano, he writes articles, he's written books, and he's had his level of fame for quite a long time. And he would push me. And I said, how do I do it? I'm going to tell you what I was really waiting for, Ian. I was waiting for him to say, I'll write it, Scott. Let's just sit down, you tell me the story, and I'll write it. But it never happened. He's got too much stuff of his own, and he never offered.
Oh, and he's a pussy, and his wife controls the house. I'll say it.
John, okay. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
I'm kidding, John. Go fuck yourself.
And so anyway, I went out and
I'm a pussy too, John. Don't worry about it.
I bought a specific. I'm not. Just for the record.
Oh my fucking God!
No, I'm not. I'll go to war over that.
Okay.
I'm the fucking Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
I'm fucking top G.
All right.
And you know why I'm top G? Because I'm older than you.
Okay. There you go.
Because Andrew Tate, love him or hate him, the guy's really smart.
Yeah.
He's really fucking smart.
So you got to the point where you're like, this
So John Romano pushed me. I went out, and I don't know how to use a computer very well, but the iPad is okay. So I bought the big iPad with a keyboard, an extended keyboard, and he said, "Just start, Scott." So I remember the night I was going to start. I'm in my room. I beat around the bush for a while. This isn't an easy hill to climb. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of second thought.
Yeah.
Look at you. You got fucking 16 books you could write. You haven't written one yourself.
Yep.
So I sat down and he said, just write. So I started writing, but I started writing from moment one, moment A. So I start and I'm writing and I'm like, okay, I bought the cigars. Okay, I went to Chicago, Howard from, and I get down to, let's call it 20 pages, and I start noticing that it's a problem because, I got to add this. Scrolling and looking. Half of my time would be in scrolling and looking. And every day, John Romano said, Scott, this is the goal. 1 page a day. Try and write 1 page a day. So I would come home. Every day I trained jiu-jitsu in the evening. I would come home after getting smashed and beaten and getting close to killing a couple people. And I would go in my private little room that I had set up. Remember, I got a bunch of little kids around the house. And I would start typing it out. And long story short, took me 27 months to type it out.
Wow.
And then I was flying on a plane, and you have a lot of time. I can't sit still. And I took out my phone, and in my phone, in my notes, how I did it, and this is like a lesson for anyone out there thinking of doing it. I made labels. So I took a note, and I made a list, like first trip to Cuba, Diami. Diami was the first girl I ever met in Cuba. Raul, Partagas Factory, Romeo and Julieta Factory, Jaime, my driver, the bust in Arizona, the near bust in Chicago, the federales raiding my room in Reynosa, and I just pop, and then I'm putting it in chronological order. So I make the list, and then if there's any special memory, I'll add it below that label. And then I came home and I adjusted all the chronological order in my manuscript and put all the labels, and it made it so much easier. And then I sent it to Romano.
This is incredible.
Romano edited for me the first 3 times. Now, I don't
Okay.
want to throw Romano under the bus. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, under the bus, you fuck bastard. Fuck you.
So John edited for me, so we would talk, and I'm so fucking impatient. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? But I don't want to bother him. He's doing me a favor. He edited it once. My original book was 140,000 words, and I sent that to John. He sent it back to me. He edited. I don't remember the word countage, but I added to it. So I read his entire edit. And believe me, it's very hard. Read a book in 1 day or less. It's very hard. So I sat down, I edited, and then I started adding to it. And I didn't know what to do and how to make it stand out, so I figured out how to make the letters in red. So I made them in red, and I edited it, and I added 11,000 words. So my book ended up at 160,000 words after the 3 edits with John. I sent it off to a person in Hollywood who was involved in the industry, and he read it, and he said to me, Scott, I love the story. I love the detailed description, but it's missing the arc and it's missing some things to connect it, so you got to do this. And I sat there, Ian, and I got online and I did a lot of research, and I found a company, Lion Crest Publishing, who published David Goggins' book and their Scribe Media, and I reached out to them and I signed a contract with them, and then we started a real professional edit. So I signed with them in March of last year. I signed the contract, sent them my manuscript. Their senior editor read the manuscript. He sent back his evaluation and what he thought and what he believed and what needed to be done. Then they sent it to the editor who I was going to work with hand in hand to do it. And that editor sent me back a manuscript. I fucking hated it. Fuck. Oh man, I was in Mexico City, Ian. I couldn't sleep. I was coming apart at the seams.
So what you got? So we're almost 2 hours in. We haven't even fucking begun.
No, there's a lot, I can keep going forever.
So the book is done.
The book is almost done. The book is in the last edit.
It's in this last edit, and the idea is to have this for sale, accessible to the public by January.
Now, what my editor told me, and my publishing manager, she committed to the date of January 21st. She said, Scott, we were originally going to release it in December, and she said, Scott, historically, December releases are not really the best. People are distracted with the holidays, so let's bump it back because we still have the audiobook and a couple other things, and I'm trying to work on the Spanish translation. I haven't even started yet because I'm looking for a translator, and my company can do it, but I can also do it too. Okay. So
January's the date.
January 21st is a release date.
Okay, well we're gonna have more podcasts. There's gonna be about 10 because there's about 4 more to go with this first fucking book, and I want to know. I'm gonna do this for you because this is what has to happen. This is just way too much. I want you to let me read it, and then I'm gonna come back with a bunch of questions.
Oh, fucking awesome!
And then we're gonna do a pre-sale contest. I'm gonna figure something out.
You're gonna read it?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. I'm going to read the book.
Wow.
I'm going to come back with all my insights and questions. And out of that, we're going to do some contests with you so that somebody might be able to, depends on what kind of mood we're in, if we're going to have access to a special discount or maybe even something autographed personally by Scott OG. And we're gonna make this a little bit bigger and stronger and deeper. This is way too cool, way too fucking much.
I want to show something here. I want to show something. To me, it's funny. I want you to look at that stud right there. That stud was in Havana. That picture was taken, let's call it 1995 for argument's sake.
Okay, this is what happened when white people, when white boys watch too much Miami Vice, and they want to.
But look at that, Ian. Look at that. Oh, look at that picture, and look at that.
There you go.
Okay, look at the next picture.
Oh my fucking God.
Look at the next picture.
I don't want to say my boy's a fucking hoarder, but.
What's that? What's that? Let me see which one it is.
It's you and your thong.
My thong. Okay, here's my purple solid thong.
But what would you fucking do if you saw this?
Look at that, man. Look at that.
Oh my
God. And let's see that third picture.
Yeah, that's you spending money. Look at you. You dressed up on this one. It's got a logo.
and here is here's that T-shirt.
Oh wow.
I'm going to tell you why, Ian. I got a box full of stuff, And I just put it in there because the Cuban cigar smuggling period of my life was pretty special.
Sure.
It was about 4 years, and it was nonstop action. There was a lot of females that crossed the path during that period of time. It was a period of time that most guys can only dream about. I was traveling from the U.S., Canada, U.S., Mexico, Cuba. Every couple days, I was in a different place. I had an exciting life. I went to Michael Jordan's house. I was in cigar bars, restaurants, nightclubs, hanging out with some of the coolest and most popular people in my town, Chicago. And I got to see all of my friends all the time, and I didn't need to get involved in that other business because I was making my money. But I was a man on a mission, Ian.
Sure.
This was not. I wasn't the party boy. I was never that guy. Wow. I was never wasting my life partying. I was on a mission to build a new life.
Scott, this has been a fucking incredible beginning to this podcast. There's absolutely no way that we can't. I got to recalculate this. I was thinking 4. It's probably going to be about 8.
Oh, there's Ian because I have this book coming out, and then I have 3 more with the publisher now. So as far as we go right now, the first one is titled Street Raised. The second one is Built for Crime. And the third one is Fugitive Years. And those are the different periods of my life. And so back to the Colombian journalist who sat with me. He turned off the camera and he looked at me and he goes, Scott, you got to get someone to really do your story right. Your story is great. I go, oh, wait. An hour ago, you said to me, what makes you think your story is better than Carlos? He said, I didn't know your story. So that was inspiring. It made me feel good. And often, Ian, it makes me feel good when I hear good feedback and people say stuff. I did Marco Antonio Barrera's podcast. I want to make something clear. I'm a private guy. I've been private. I've flown under the radar my whole life. I don't like the spotlight. And let me tell you something. The only difference between famous people, me and you, and the average people out there is that the spotlight is shining on those other people. They do the same shit everyone else does. And I didn't want the spotlight on me because when you have the spotlight on yourself, when the spotlight is on Vampiro, for instance, they're scrutinized. Everything they do is judged, but they're just people. We're all just people. So I was private, Ian, and I didn't want this, and then something happened at about 60, and I have a few things that happened that made me say, I got to tell the fucking story. I don't care what anybody says. Fucking criticize me, throw me under the bus. Like my ex-wife used to say, pinche delincuente de mierda, you fucking piece of shit criminal. That's who I used to be. I'm no longer that person, and I raised my kids right, and you know that.
You are one of the most interesting people I've ever met, and you're passionate. I can see. Listen, this is. I need to register and process all of this. This is way too much. Too much good stuff is coming.
Ian, you know what I want to do? Can one of you people hand me that newspaper article? I just want to. I want to show you this because you'll get. This is another thing. Look at the date, and I saved this. It looks like it's yesterday's front page.
1996. There was. This is incredible.
This is gold to me. This is a memory because you've got to be able to validate things, or people are going to call you out on things like, "Oh, you didn't do that." Yeah, but I got this guy, and this guy who can validate it.
100%. And actually, I'm going to validate it all because my podcast is pretty serious. That's why I'm going to do it the right way. And to close this first chapter off, there's a scene in the movie, The Interview with the Vampire, and Christian Slater, his character is a reporter, and he is in the room with Brad Pitt, who is the vampire Lestat, and Christian Slater is not taking it seriously, and it's very similar to Scott sitting down with that Cuban journalist, and Brad Pitt says, "There's absolutely no way we can begin this way." Turns off the tape recorder, gets in his face, comes back, scares him, and we go back in time. What Scott has let us see today, a little bit of his inside of his phenomenally interesting life in the side of crime and criminals and all that kind of stuff. what I really want you to understand is this book is going to change lives because it's such a positive message, because this man has fucking succeeded. He's come out of it, but his success hasn't been his gym. The success is at 60 years old. He's found the courage within himself to tell you his story. So Scott, I want to thank you for that. I'm going to read your book. Get it to me. Can I take the fucking thing? Where can I read it? And we're going to do this. I'm going to start reading it.
As soon as the edit is done, this is a funny thing, Ian, because I wanted you to do the blurb on the back.
I will.
Well, it's too late now because the cover,
see, good friends.
The cover and the back cover are already locked in.
Right.
But I got 4 or 5 more books coming, so you can do the blurb on one of those. But I didn't know you know how to read.
I do. I can go. It's probably going to. If you do C spot, I can get that far to C.
Okay.
And then somebody will help me with spot and what
because I was going to offer it, then I go, oh fuck! What if he tells me, hey Scott, I can't read?
Yeah, I know.
The audiobook.
Oh, that's why he's him.
Yeah. I could have given you the audiobook.
There you go. Because I couldn't read this. It's written in crayons and half it's backwards. So, birds of a feather, brother.
Yeah, I know.
This is a great beginning. No. This is the beginning. Within the month, this will be out. This podcast will be out ASA fucking P.
Yeah, because I can't wait. He I'm more excited than him.
Yeah. See you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.